everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are making this beautiful fox portrait with pastel pencils. Do you remember the first time I worked with pastels? Wow, this is something. It was a painful experience, but I feel like I'm getting used to it, and actually we will create more beautiful portraits together in the future, I promise that. I will give you some tips about how to blend them and how to handle pastel pencils, plus how can you give realistic effect. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to give your support, and also follow me on Instagram, Ece Gurler Art. Finally, if you want to get all my real-time tutorials, they are on my Patreon, patreon.com/Ece Gurler. On my Patreon, I post 6 new tutorials every month. Get your pastel pencils ready. We are drawing. In the portraits, I always start with the background first. We use different tones of yellow, ochre colors here, and also white together with black. If I could go back now in time and change things, I would use dark brown instead of black, as it could blend with ochre color much better. I added white to the highlighted areas and black for the darkest shadows in the background. One of the best things about pastel pencils is that you can create a blur effect on the background so easily. You just blend different layers of colors together using your finger or a blending stump, starting from the lightest color towards the darkest one. Because instead of having more black in my yellow, for example, I prefer to have more yellow in my black. To get the best realistic results in pastel drawings, it is so crucial that we create multiple layers as we go, because the more pastel chalk get in the tooth of the paper, the more bright and solid your colors will look. Here in the background, I tried to do many layers. On the first layer, I applied more yellow, brown, black and white, especially white in the areas that I want highlights. You realize that as you draw on the layer, you also reactivate the previous layer in dust form. If you don't want those colors, blow them away. If you want them to stay, blend them in circular motions, just like the way I am doing right here. One perfect thing about pastels is that you can add lighter shades on top of darker shades later. So you don't have to worry too much if you forgot to add highlights in the beginning. Just like you see on the right, we add whites with browns on top of an already finished darker layer, and you blend and the highlights show up there beautifully. In portraits with pastels, try to start from top and go down as you draw, because then you won't smudge everything with your hand. Although I recommend you just that, I always start with eyes, as I think they give life to my drawings and it motivates me a lot. What do you draw first in your portraits? Share with me in the comments, I really want to know. For the eyes, I used black, orange and burnt sienna colors, and for highlights, I used my white color. Because it is hard to blend with your fingers here, it's a very narrow area, I highly recommend using a blending stump. I also added some dark blue on the black so that it doesn't look flat. Because we will add the details later, we are not paying attention to details but just putting the base colors in. We use many shades of orange, yellow and brown here so that it gives a nice depth to our drawing. We don't have to sharpen our pencil a lot at this stage because we are not putting in any detail yet. For the areas that have more yellow tones, we prepare a more yellow base. For darker areas, more dark brown and orange base. After we have all our pigments down on the paper, we will blend them nicely following the direction of the fur. Looking at your reference photo here will help you a lot in terms of choosing where to create which color and in what density. One big tip, don't leave white areas white. Still draw with your white pencil there and put pigment down there, because we need something to blend together with other colors. We add all the dark details around the nose with black and blue, and be careful about the dark shades as they might be hard to erase later. As I mentioned before, you will have to add white even though your paper is white. And in order to draw the shadows in the white fur, we will use our light gray pencil. So the white fur has a better definition in the neck part. This is the most fun part. Blend the larger areas with your finger by moving your finger in the direction of the fur, and for the smaller areas such as the eye or the mouth, we use a clean blending stump. Adding the details will create a realistic effect in your drawing. Make sure you sharpen your pastel pencils before you use them, because especially for the fur details, your pencils need to be really sharp. I use electrical sharpener and I'm really happy about that. By looking at the reference photo, we add all different colors of fur in where they belong. The more colors you add, the more depth you will get in your portrait. And the more depth means creating more realistic look for your fox. For example, there are some flocks of fur in dark brown color just above its eyes, and under its eyes you see the burnt sienna colored fur mostly. If you're not familiar with the burnt sienna color, it is a brown color with hints of red in it. Of course, as much as the color of the fur, the direction of the fur is also very important. They have different directions. For example, above the eye, they grow upward, and below the eye, they grow sideways. In the neck area, the fur growth is downward. So following these patterns will create a more realistic result in your drawing. So at this stage, when we put in the details, we make sure that we don't blend them this time because we want them to stay fur-like. Make sure the fur on the right side in this drawing also comes on the background as well. By looking at your reference photo, you can decide all the directions for fur and where you should do denser applications. Here on the nose, the fur is really short. Before I add the fur detail, I create the shadows with my darker brown tone first. I realized the black area on the left is too dark, so I lighten it up by just using some brown, and then I added all the short fur details on it. Creating contrast will make your portrait look more realistic and also will attract more attention. To do that, we go back to the black areas and darken them up and add the highlights with our bright colors such as yellow, orange, or basically with simply white color. For the darkest areas on the fur, I didn't use black and I used brown instead because I wanted to look more natural. In the white areas, whenever you add the gray shadows, don't forget to add some white pigment down as well. Because if you don't, then when you blend the gray areas, you will also pick up the white pigment from the base layer and you might reveal the color of paper. Before I add the whiskers, I want to make sure that my fox is ready because once the whiskers are in, I won't be able to change anything underneath. For whiskers, make sure that your pencil is really sharp. We follow the direction of the growth of the hair. Some of them are long, some of them are short, so we definitely pay attention to that, and we just follow our reference photo. Here we go. There will be more realistic pastel portraits coming from me, so stay tuned. I would love to know what you think about pastels. Share your comments with me. I would love to know. See you in my next video. Bye! Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe and visit my website ecegurler.com. Stay with art and love.